Okay, Steph, I wanted to start here. What exactly is intention setting and how is it different from goals or resolutions?
Okay, I think a big part of intention is energy and what is in your heart. Kasi goals and resolutions, it's like a to-do list of things that you want to tick off. Syempre, we all have that na. I want to get fitter, but it's the why. Intention settings is thinking about what is your why in doing all the things that you want to do. Because if you lose that why, then how can you keep moving forward? And it brings about an energy also of compassion because sometimes it happens. Life happens and you don't fulfill your goal or your resolution, but you still have that why, and that can carry you through, and you can get to that why in many other ways.
Hello, supers! We all have goals for 2025, diba? We all have resolutions or things or habits that we want to adjust or change. And yes, that is great. But it is intention that will help us in making that happen. For this episode, I am joined by lifestyle journalist, Reiki practitioner, and host of the podcast Soulful Feasts, my friend Stephanie Zubiri, one of the most intentional human beings I know. So, how to start the year with intention setting? What does that look like, feel like, or sound like? Let's get right to it. So, yes, intention setting. Where does one even start?
That's the question, right? So, even for me, I'd like to say I journal every day. That is so not true because I'm a writer. So for me, writing is work. I don't
Yes,
find it
correct.
meditative. So I actually like to just sit in the morning and be and kind of honor my feelings and my needs. And at the beginning of the year, think of it as like the beginning of your day, but it's a big day. It's the beginning of 365 days. And rather than what it is you want to accomplish, what is it do you want to embody? I think that's the biggest difference.
Mm.
It's not about a list of things that you need to get done, you need to change, you need to accomplish, because let's face it, sometimes there are things that we cannot change, right? But what is it do I want to embody? And when you say embody, that's an energy, and that energy will have like a snowball effect. So rather than chasing after goals and resolutions, why not attract what is meant for you? Why not sort of be a magnet? So, how do you be a magnet? You embody, and you embody through setting an intention. And it could be different for everybody. Some people start with a word, and a word has power
Mm-hmm.
and meaning and strength, and it's almost like a declaration. So for example, my word for this year is expansion and expansiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice, those words have a velocity, have an energy. It's an outwardness, right? And I can share a little bit more later why I chose that. But then some people could also just be like stillness
Mm-hmm.
or healing, or perhaps it's joy. So I think the best way to get into intention setting is like, what is the emotions that you want to embody or the energy you want to embody for the year? So that's one. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, it could also be, what is your why? Okay, so for example, very common for New Year's. I want to get fit. I want to
Mm-hmm.
get healthy. I want to get healthy habits. Okay, we all do. But what is your why? And so it's not because I want to be more sexy. Pwede then, why not?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, my intention of why I want to get fit is so that I won't be a burden to my children. I want to be 80 years old and still hiking with them, playing with my grandkids. I want to be a vibrant Lola, cool dancing Lola. I don't want to be riddled with illness and like have my kids having to worry about me. So that's an intention versus the goal, right? it's what drives your goals. It's what drives your purpose, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've been talking about energy a lot, and this is something I've only also started being more conscious about siguro in the past few years. But for those who are new to the term, when you say energy, it's not necessarily energy, kasi diba that's the general
Yeah.
sense of the word. Energy, parang it's all these energy drinks and like high performance. But in this conversation, energy means.
It's it is what makes up the universe. Okay? So I always like to explain it to people. Nikola Tesla, which is like one of the greatest scientists of all time, he said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy. And I'll explain it like super basic way, because some people don't believe it. But so basically, if you break down our physical bodies, right? Go back to grade school biology. We are made up of cells,
Mhm.
right? Our bodies are made up of cells. If you look at our skin, if you look at plants under a microscope, we're made out of cells. If you break down those cells and you get like a super powerful microscope, we're made out of molecules, right? If you do molecules and you break it down, what are those? Atoms, right? And if you break down the atoms, what are atoms made out of? Electrons, protons, neutrons.
Mhm.
That's actually just waves of energy, little particles moving and vibrating. So actually, if you really want to go crazy, we don't really exist. We're all just like tangible expressions of energy. And there was this amazing study that was done in the 1990s by the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel. And they were observing a stream of electrons through a tube. And, they think electrons are particles. And so they were just observing this. And when
Mhm.
people would look at these electrons, they were physically in the room, they would act like particles. And then when they left the room and it was still recording the experiment, the electrons stopped acting like matter, stopped acting like particles, but started acting like waves. So we think of Wi-Fi, radio waves, EMF waves, electromagnetic waves, that's all energy, right? So what are the two things that came out of this experiment? One, our natural state of being is energetic. And two, what you think something is going to happen will happen. So scientists expect electrons to act like particles. So when they would enter the room, they would become particles. When they would leave the room, they would become energy. So that's like a very long way of saying what is inside us is what we will attract. And very simple. Nega likes nega and
Mhm.
positive people likes positive people, right? So that's just very basic. And at the end of the day, what you embody, if you get to tune into our energy inside, and what does that mean? That's not always happy. In fact, sometimes we have to honor the angry energies that come. So today in one of my workshops, I talked about how energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It
Yeah.
just exists, right? It can only be transformed, right? So you get those potato experiments and you stick all these things and the potato becomes a battery, right? Like
Yeah.
there's intrinsic energy. I don't know how it happens, don't ask me, but it's just proof that this energy exists and it goes from a potato can be fuel for your body, but can also power up a clock, right? I'm not sure how it works. But at the end of the day, energy is just existing around us. So it's up to us to
Mm.
honor it, transform it. We can't create it. So we become a channel. So sometimes we have waves of joy, which
Mhm.
we can share with others, but sometimes there's also waves of sadness. And what happens is the bad stuff, we push it down and we don't honor it. So it kind of stays, and that's how people get sick. So when I talk about energy, it's also about empowerment. Because when you realize that hey, I have pala the power to transform the
Yes.
energy within me, which also means I have the power to transform the energy outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what else can we do in this world, right? So it's an invitation to be limitless and to go beyond your limits. That's why for me resolutions live here, and it's actually the weakest part of your body. Your mind gets muddled, confused. You take coffee, you take alcohol, whatever. Like, yeah, you can have a strong mind, but this is not what radiates. You have to look here. So intentions are from the heart. If resolutions and goals are logical, logos, intentions are from your heart, from your soul, from your gut. And that's what we try to do. Yeah.
I love the way you explained this. I never not learn new things from you. I always do. And I love how you put it because when you were talking, I already realized that point of we actually have control of
Yeah.
our energy. And siguro I'll paint a picture lang for people listening and watching. This probably has happened in your day. You wake up and then let's say you're having your coffee natapon sa'yo, so bad trip ka na. You head out, it's puro red stoplights. You're taking forever to get to work. When you get to work, sinungitan ka ng guard, pinagalitan ka. And parang that type of energy, parang if you don't break out of it, the rest of your day will feel like crap, 'di ba?
Absolutely.
But if you do take the time, when you get to your desk, quiet time, hihinga ka, to your point, you'll honor all the nega na nangyari, but sort of shift the energy from within. For me personally, movement does that.
Yes.
Like you take a walk, but I know there are exercises like really like breathing, punching things, ganyan, to switch up your energy, and you will totally notice that you can change the pace of your day. I'm sure this has happened to
Absolutely.
you also.
Okay, I'll tell you guys a really funny story. So, I'm generally like a peaceful, happy person. Because at the end of the day, there's lots of things we cannot change. And the
Mhm.
only true freedom we have is how we react to things. And essentially, that's the energy we give things and how we transform that energy within us, right? So, stuff will happen, right? Um, and one time I was in the kitchen cooking. I was having a super happy day, and then I received a text from my ex. And basta I won't say na what, but parang nainis ako, grabe. And like just yung galit like came from like my toes, up my
Mm.
legs, up my, and then like nanininig na with like, oh, like I just, like my blood was curdling and parang super gigil sa galit. And then I was telling Scott, I was like, you know what? I'm so sorry. This seems super weird, but I really don't know what to do with this. So I'm going to smash a wooden spoon. So I use like, and then he says, pa, wait, don't get a new one, get an old one. I was like, no, the old ones are nicer. Like so, and then I got like a spoon, and then you know what? I just stood there like rage talaga with the spoon on the like stone countertop of my kitchen. like until it smashed into pieces. And then you know what? I felt better. Like I took a breath and picked myself up and kind of like ironically picked up all the pieces also and then put it in the trash. And then parang when I put it in the trash, I put then all the negative feelings in the trash. And other it didn't mean that my issues with him were resolved. It just meant that that anger didn't live inside me,
Mm.
only for me to burst out at my kid like, ano ba yan ang dumi-dumi ng kamay mo? Blah, 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 blah. Which is what happens, right?
Yeah.
You put it inside, you bottle it in, and then it comes out to people that, and
Yes.
situations that don't, know. And like, I'll be honest, So and this might be triggering, so trigger warning for some people. I'm actually prone to self harm. And I can say this with no shame. And it's when these emotions are so strong that I don't know what to do, that parang I just want to squeeze my arms hanggang dumudugo. Like it just feels better to hurt myself than to feel it inside. So some of the strategies that I've learned for that was really like that: smashing a spoon, screaming at the pillow, punch the pillow, whatever, right? Whatever works. And that's just a great example of how energy just passes through us. And so we just have to be like an antenna and kind of like don't absorb, release in a positive way. And when you become aware, then you can release the negative energy in a positive way. Consequently, on a lighter, happier note, you can also transmute that positive
Yeah.
energy in a great way. You can also be an antenna to attract, to connect, to disseminate whatever goodness, kindness, compassion, abundance, prosperity that you want in your life, right? And so that's why it's really important to, for me, intention setting starts with knowing yourself and listening to yourself first and what you need, because every year it changes, every day
Mm.
it changes, your journey is different every day. So if you don't know what you need inside, then you don't know your why, right? A lot of people are just on autopilot. So it just invites us to understand our why and how to tap into that and then kind of lead from there. That becomes parang the fuel for everything else.
Yeah. Thank you for your honesty and openness as always. And I love that point na you're right that energy doesn't just affect us. It affects those around us. And naturally, ayaw natin silang maapektuhan, especially our loved
Yeah.
ones, in a bad way or in a negative way. If someone listening to this is new to intention setting, what are examples of you from you or from people you know of intentions that they've set in a new year?
Okay, so one of the practices that I really love is yun nga, choosing your word for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very simple. I have some people who are like triumphant, and that goes in all aspects. Again, let me elaborate on mine. This year was expansion and expansiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So I posted about it. It's quite kind of funny, right? Because I want to expand my capacity for creativity, to hold space, expand my capacity to love, but also expand my business and my audience, my community. I also, and then I had a hard time writing pa prosperity because I have like money blocks, right? So I'm like, hindi, gusto ko rin ma-expand yung bank account so I can
Tama.
help more people and help my kids. So parang it's very easy actually to start with a word. And
Mm-hmm.
then with that word, you have the whys, right? So parang it becomes like an anchor. And then, what does it branch out from? And then that kind of becomes the thrust of energy, right? So for me, it was outward expand. Last year for me was actually healing and transformation. So I had like two words. It was really a lot of unpacking and unfolding. Transformation comes with cocooning also. So
Mm-hmm.
words have power, words have energy. So if you really look at the different words, like think of yung butterfly, it has to dissolve itself. It has to go inward before it can expand its wings and fly, right? So yeah, it really depends on you. And my best tip for everyone is do not overthink. Let's learn to listen to our gut. Let's
Mm-hmm.
learn to listen to that inner voice, that inner knowing, that inner wisdom. Kasi minsan, like, ay, ganun ba? Or maybe ganito, or ito yung uso, or like, ay, ano yung manifestation, ganyan, like abundance. But is it really what you want? Because usually your voice will tell you. So me, when I thought about it, parang it just came at a dinner, like, what's your word for this year? I'm like, expansion. Parang whatever is the first thing that comes to mind, if you sit
Mm-hmm.
and think, ito na yun. And then later, it will reveal itself. The logic comes after.
Mm-hmm.
Yan. So parang allow the energy first, allow the intuition, allow the magic to come out, and apply the logic after.
Mm. I'm happy you mentioned that because it's something a lot of people are still trying to tune into. As a last question, when you say listen to your gut, that's not something that's easy to do, eh, 'di ba? Like thinking back now when I was in my 20s, yeah, it's probably more mind, ego, maybe,
Yeah.
or what I'm projecting myself out into the world. It's just really only with more experience, hopefully more wisdom, that I learned to tune into that inner voice and that gut because it's different for everyone. But what does that look like? How is that supposed to sound or feel like listening to your gut?
Not second guessing yourself. Very often, the first answer is the right answer for you. And I always talk about like the whole body yes, and that's why I really encourage
Mm.
people, like a lot of my practices really have a physical component, because what's happened is we've detached ourselves. Mind, spirit, and body, they're not working together, right? People, I'll exercise, 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 I'm gonna pray, I'm gonna meditate, and their spirituality lives here, and then I'm gonna think, think, think. It's not connecting, right? It should connect, it should all work together, right? And it takes a while. It takes a lot of mistakes, a
Mm.
lot of self compassion and self forgiveness. It takes actually going first to the darkness before coming out. So don't rush the journey. If it's not your time to embark on that journey, it's okay. You will know when it's your time, because you have to. Intuition begins with self awareness. And with self awareness, you need humility and you need forgiveness and compassion for you. Because a lot of your triggers in other people are just triggers from within yourself, right? So if you're not ready yet to go through that shadow work, that's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay. A very simple practice is the whole body yes. So I'm going to plug it here. We actually have a podcast on Soulful Feasts all
Mhm.
about the whole body yes. But, and then the no, the big no and the little no. So, for example, that's why we say trust your gut. Like when you're nervous, diba, or like things don't feel right, parang you're queasy in your stomach. There's like a gut brain axis. Like there's also a physiological aspect to it. But your
Mhm.
gut in energy work is your solar plexus, which is your inner sun, your inner light. And that's where your seat of confidence lies. So parang it's also your inner knowing, right? So working on that helps a lot. Wearing yellow, and so a whole body yes is kind of like when someone's like, "Hey, you want to go hiking tomorrow in Rizal?" And you're like, "Hell yeah, I want to do that, and I want to do that again." And that was an amazing experience. And then like a kind of like a little yes is like, "Hey, let's have lunch tomorrow." And you're like, "I'm busy, but actually I'd like to see you." So yeah, let's do that, right? And then sometimes you have to find your yes, because there's stuff that you don't necessarily want to do. Like, I have to do my taxes, but I don't want to be a bad citizen. So, okay, yes. So you find your yes. What happens is if it's a no, this is what the problem is. If it's a no, but you force yourself to yes. And we often find that happening. If you have to over rationalize why you have to do something, why you have to let go of something, why you have to end something, alam mo na eh. 'Di ba? Alam mo na that it's a no. And we force ourselves all the time to like, because we're people pleasers, and it's normal. Don't feel bad. We all go through that. Here, especially in Asia and the Philippines, particularly for women, we feel compelled to always say yes, even if it's things that we don't want to do. So, one day you wake up and it causes problems because you're like, hey, man, no. And it causes problems because people are so used to saying yes. So there's like a bit of conflict. But as you keep exercising how that feels in your body,
Mm.
like you remember that the series Nobody Wants This, and she talks about the ick, right?
Mm.
we have that on different levels throughout the day, throughout the year. Like when someone says, let's do this or let's do this, sometimes you're like, that's a no na, guys. No na yun. No.
That's your body, gut, heart
Yeah.
telling you, no, okay.
No, don't over convince. I mean, of course,
Mm-mm.
sometimes again, you have to find the yes for whatever reason. Like, I had to go to this party with people I didn't really like, and I really didn't want to go. But then the celebrant is someone that I care about, and like, okay, that's my yes. I will go for that person, right? So that's okay. Then you have to really, yeah. Then it becomes nuanced. So at the end of the day, it's exercising that with small things. Like
Mm-hmm.
catching yourself, parang having a third person. And someone's like, oh guys, tara, magkape muna tayo. And then you're like, parang I have work pa. But then you feel compelled na parang FOMO ka. But then you can just be like, no, it's okay. I'll finish this muna and I'll see you guys along tomorrow. You know, like small things. Then you can graduate to bigger things.
Right. I super agree with that. That sometimes it feels so heavy to say that no, but 100% with what Steph said, that the more you do it, the more in the future it will come with more ease for you to say yes to what you're truly meant to say yes to, and to say no to what is truly not meant for you.
And just a warning, the more you say yes to things that are not aligned with your feelings,
Mm-mm.
your values, you're not honoring your soul, the smaller your energy becomes. And that's how people kind of erase themselves and get depleted and get burnt out and just live a shell of a life. And you know what? I'll tell you what, it's okay. Sometimes you have to get to that point to
Mm.
emerge. So, kanya-kanyang journey. I always say that. KKJ, kanya-kanyang journey.
Yes,
No judgment.
that is Steph's thing, KKJ, kanya-kanyang journey. And absolutely, like if you are listening to this and suddenly a word pops up for you, then great. But if you are the type that you have to sit with it for maybe a week, maybe go away, have some quiet time before it comes to you, go ahead. Ika nga ni Steph, KKJ.
Yeah. And you know what? I always tell people we're like a radio. You know the old radios? Okay, siguro yung mga Gen Z, hindi na nila alam kung ano yung transistor radio. Pero baka
Yun po
uso
yung
na ngayon yung mga
parang medyo
analog.
silver na box tapos may knob, yung bilog that you have to
Yeah.
tune in left or right. Yeah.
So I feel like we are all like that transistor radio. We have the capacity to get a clear signal from the universe. Sometimes we're just turned off. Okay. And even if you turn it on, sometimes you're not tuning into the right channel. Sometimes you get static. Sometimes you get FM, no, whatever, or AM. Mali mali. And then when you find the right channel, and that's like at a different frequency for everyone, then the signal is clear. Then you get all the messages from the universe, from God, from whatever it is that you believe in. If we're not open, if your radio is off, how can you receive? And static is what I like to call living up here, right?
Mm.
You're clouding. You're clouding everything. You're overthinking, overanalyzing. How can you receive? How can you be inspired? Sometimes just sit. And I know it's hard, and don't judge yourself for it. The more you sit quietly, the easier it becomes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautifully said. Thank you, Steph.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, guys.
I have got my homework cut out for me. Setting aside time for intention setting. And I hope this episode helped anyone who might want to try that too. And, diba? Set our energy for the year ahead. Thank you so much for joining us. Paano Ba To is created and hosted by me, Bianca Gonzalez, with podcast producer Anika Neri and edited by Paolo Halili. To be part of our community of supers, you can follow us on Instagram at Paano Ba To, follow us on TikTok at Ask Paano Ba To, and of course, you can join our private Facebook group, our safe space, the Paano Ba To Super Group. Till our next episode, this whole January, we are talking about things that we will start or can possibly start this year. So till the next one, stay super, supers.